Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Triple T for Knife Makers podcast, episode 50. I can't believe it's been this many. Jerid, still on vacation. So I have the one and only Kyle Daly joining me today. Kyle, how's it going?
Great. It's been an honor to get asked to be on here. So glad
Oh,
to talk to your listeners some about all the different things today.
yeah. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I got a million questions, but tell me what's new. How's your week?
It's cold up here. We got the Arctic blast coming in. I think it topped out at like 6 degrees today. So it's been pretty cold, but I'm glad I have a big natural gas heater. I think it's like 180,000 BTUs. So uh,
Jeez. And
keeps
where are
pretty.
you again? What state are you in?
I'm in the western suburbs of Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago. All right.
So
I've been
not
there. I've been there. It's
yeah.
cold.
It can be. But yeah, I've got spray foam garage and stuff, so it's pretty energy efficient.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I've been working on a couple little things. One of the things there's a local guy that makes a lot of golf stuff, and I've been making some of his he calls them pitch tools, but it's kind of like a little fork for lifting the divots.
Yep.
And then him and I are working on a little design for a bag knife. So little tiny it's like 1.5 inch blade is the one we're going to try to work on first. He's actually going to be taking it to the PGA. There's like a convention going on, I guess, this week. So he's taking it out there to show it to a bunch of people, but it's going to be for like sharpening your pencil, opening a pack of balls and stuff on the course. It's something that we're going to try to make to have in your bag to make things a little easier.
That's definitely a market. And I could
Yeah.
see even combining those two, having the little divot tool and a knife in one, maybe something like that. I think there's a lot of crossover there.
Yeah, so excited to be working with him. He's literally like 7 minutes away from me. So, one of our sponsors, Atlas Materials, he was having a guy up in Milwaukee make them for him, and that guy started having some health problems and decided to stop making them. And when he was talking to Natasha, Atlas Materials, she goes, "There's like a knife maker down like right next to you," and then she gave him my name, and Phil and I have been working quite a bit now. So been cool.
So you're an engineer by trade. How long you been knife making, and what do
I've got a degree.
give me the Kyle story.
Yeah, so I'm a degreed engineer from Purdue University. I got a mechanical engineering technology degree, which is a little bit different than mechanical engineering. Purdue was one of the colleges to kind of pioneer the MET degree, so it's actually through the College of Technology instead of the College of Engineering. When I applied to like schools, I actually didn't get into the College of Engineering, but you can apply to many different things, and it was like mechanical engineering technology. Sure, I'll do that one along with my my thing, and turns out that was like the best thing ever because that was exactly what I wanted to do. I'm a lot more hands on. Um, Growing up, I did, or when I was in high school. My freshman year, I actually took architectural drafting and learned a whole bunch of stuff, how to do everything by hand with a pencil. And then where I grew up in Columbus, Indiana, that's Cummins Engine Company's world headquarters.
Okay.
And the guy who taught their apprentice drafting program started teaching my sophomore year of high school. So I took his mechanical drafting class, and that would just set me up really well for all my engineering stuff. He taught it exactly like he did the 1 year apprentice drafting program. So he taught us basically almost everything that he knew in 1 year. And they said, Randy, people could take this up to 4 years. You need to like slow down a little bit. Um, so I would basically, it was kind of like, he would like teach the newcomers, and then like he would have me and a couple other people that took the classes earlier continue to do more and more stuff. So I worked in the machine shop that we had there, redrew all the drawings for the machine shop and things like
And this
that.
was all high school.
This was all high school.
Wow.
And then when I was in college, my first year, freshman year, I got a call from one of my best friends or one of my friend's dads, and he said, "So I heard you're in engineering and you might be looking for a job over the summer." And I was like, "Yeah, I'd be interested in that." He goes, "Well, I was talking to your drafting teacher, Randy, and I was wanting him to come help with the machine shop that I'm starting to help do some drawing stuff." And he said he wasn't interested, but he knew this young kid that he would recommend. And that's when he gave Scott Cole my name. And that was like the easiest, because I had known Scott and his son Casey. Casey was the same age as me, um, since we were, I think, like fifth grade. So I basically came in. He's like, "So you want to work here for the summer?" I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "Okay, let's go look." Let's go look at the shop. So I worked there summers and winter breaks all through college. And then when I graduated college, I worked at the machine shop. And then there was like uh, a contract engineering position. So Scott, who owned the machine shop, he used to be a director at Cummins, and he turns out he didn't like managing people all that much, so he wanted to go back to like being an engineer. And they basically said like, "We don't really want you to do that." So he said, "Okay, I'm gonna do my own thing." So he knew a bunch of other engineers and stuff, and he would contract a lot of retirees and stuff back to Cummins. And there was a position that was supposed to be for 6 months that he didn't have anybody, and he was like, "Kyle, I think you'd be a good candidate for this. They want like 4 hours a day, and like a couple days a week." And that was in the applied mechanics lab doing strain gauging and stuff like that. And
Sorry, doing what?
strain gauging.
I don't
So
I don't even know what that is.
it's basically an electrical resistor that you can super glue onto a part, and you can actually see it electrically change with resistance as you stress the part, move it, expand and compress it. So
Oh,
it's basically like, I actually have a small one right here. So it's like a whole bunch of little tiny wires, but it works on electrical resistance. So as you compress something, it gets shorter and fatter, the resistance goes down. As you pull it, it gets smaller and the resistance goes up. And it's very, 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 very small. And you can measure that and then see how much the part is flexing.
so that's the applicable. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for flex or compression in
Yeah.
parts, and you're using
Mm-hmm.
it as a sensor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I also did a bunch of ultrasonic bolt measurement, which that was something that I never learned about in college and never had heard about. So it uses the sound. You actually grind the top and bottom of the bolt perfectly flat and parallel, and then you send sound down and back, and it measures that time that it takes to go down and back. And then you can put those bolts in a load frame and stretch them,
And
and get a load versus change in time. So you can install your bolts, because when you tighten a bolt, it actually stretches. That's what gives you your clamping force. And uh, so I did a whole bunch of that measurement. They would do like load loss over time over engine tests and stuff. So I did a bunch of that work, and then I met my wife, or met my wife over eHarmony, and then when we decided somebody was going to have to move, I ended up moving up to Chicago. And when I interviewed at Navistar, where I worked for 11 years before I went full time with knife making, um, I was like one of the only people they interviewed out of a bunch of people that had ever even knew what ultrasonic bolt measurement was, that had ever actually put strain gauges and stuff on. So I started working there in engine testing, specifically in vehicle testing. So I spent a bunch of time going up and down the mountain over in Colorado for a couple of tests, and did a lot of in vehicle testing. And then the truck testing moved to Chicago, and then I ended up doing a lot more of the hydraulic testing, like seat pulls, tow hook pulls, door slams, hydraulic shaker testing, where we'd shake the truck in all different ways and stuff, and a lot of load frame testing, where we just do durability, fatigue testing.
so I gotta ask, how did you get into knife making? Like, what was the jump to get to knife making?
So one of my best friends, Eric Mann, he was a senior engineer when I started, and he ended up being my boss. But he told me about blade forums. I had always loved knives and stuff, but I never even like thought custom knives. Like that's what companies make. Like I never understood or never thought that I could make one. Um, and he told me about Andy Roy and introduced me to blade forums. That's when I met Dan Eastland at my first blade show in 2012. And then Dan invited me back to Andy's shop and like showed me around there. And I was pretty much hooked because I always kind of wanted my own machine shop because I've always really liked making things. When I worked at the machine shop after college, did a lot of welding and put thermocouples in after treatment systems for diesel engines and stuff. Thermocouples are like little temperature sensors.
Oh yeah, I know what a thermocouple is.
Well, for the
Yeah.
listeners that don't know, but yeah, and when I moved up here, I kind of missed doing a lot of stuff hands on because a lot of the stuff I was doing was being in meetings and stuff like that, and I really like getting my hands dirty. So um, was pretty much hooked there. And then I started my first knife shortly after Blade Show. Didn't finish it for 3 years with getting equipment together and everything like that. There was a big like year and a half where I didn't work on knives at all. So I don't count when I started making knives until I finished my first one. So that was in 2015.
So 10
Was a
years.
knife. Yeah,
Wow.
well, it took me 3 years to make my first one, and then I've been making them uh, ever since. I've made 660 knives so far. I serialize all of my knives with a little number, which is kind of cool. I got a spreadsheet, all engineer style. Um,
I wish I
and
would have
then,
started counting mine. I never did. I have
yeah,
no idea how many I've made.
yeah. It's funny because like I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I've made thousands of knives." I'm like, really? Because I feel like I've made thousands of knives and I've only made 660.
I
So
know it's not thousands. It's probably
yeah,
not even 600.
yeah. But it's been interesting. But um, we moved to our new house where we are here in October of 2020, and then in January of 2021, I found out that they were moving the whole test facility I was at to San Antonio, Texas, and then I stayed on until August, and then of 21, and then that's when I went full time with my knife making. So
So it's been like 4 years, 4.5 years around
yeah,
there full time.
well, like 3.5 years full time.
Oh, three. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, so I started doing some of the tools because I'm always trying to make my life easier, and luckily, some of those tools have uh, been helpful for other people too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know you've been doing excuse me, very well with the tools.
Yeah, yeah, that's easily over half of my like sales. So it's been really good, and I appreciate everybody for the support and some good feedback, and always helping to make products and stuff like that.
Good. Cool.
Or
Um,
or enough of that. How was your week?
my week was good. I didn't even occur to me that it was a long weekend until about Friday night. Uh, but it was actually so I ordered this new anvil, and from Holland Anvil, great anvil, very happy. But they shipped it somewhere local because it requires liftgate service, so they just ship it to somewhere
Like
local,
a
and then I go.
Fastenal?
Kind of, it was
Okay.
a shipping company about a
Okay.
half an hour away. But the shipping company phones me Thursday afternoon and says your window is tomorrow between 8 and 12.
Okay.
Okay, but this is a 300-pound anvil. I don't have a truck. So I'm scrambling to look for something that I can go because I know it's on a skid. And so I finally, borrow my buddy's trailer. And we're supposed to be leaving to go camping in the RV at noon on Friday. So I really want to be back.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had to go pick that up. Um,
Did you get
Uh,
it?
I
Mission
did.
accomplished?
Mission accomplished. It ended up,
Excellent.
I could have fit it in the back of the Jeep. It was this tiny little skid.
Okay.
It wasn't very big, but I had
It's a
the trailer anyway.
it's amazing how those heavy anvils, you would think they'd be a whole lot bigger than they are. I've got a little 30-pound Holland anvil that I use for my carbide straightening hammer, and it's like just sits on my workbench. A
Yeah.
little, it's
I have a
maybe 10 inches
70.
long.
My very first anvil is a 70-pound NC anvil, which I used to use for knife making, and it's 70 pounds, but it's only like, you know, whatever, 16 inches maybe
Hmm.
long. And now I look at it, I'm like, I can't believe I use that as my main anvil.
Yeah,
But now the new one is a 260-pound double horn. It's
beautiful.
beautiful. It's like nice crispy edges, and
Hmm.
it's nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, got the anvil. What else did I do? I was working on these two Damascus knives that I would say these two knives are the first two that I'm really focusing on to the level that I'm trying to I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I'm trying to finish these knives that perhaps they might pass master.
Okay.
Like these are the first two that I'm putting enough effort into that I'm hoping, and I have a class in March with a mastersmith that I'm going to take them to, and if he says yes, then they're going to go in zip cases and get put away.
Okay.
But we'll see how it goes. But these are like Damascus with nickel, um, and they're going to get ironwood handles and Damascus guards and blah blah blah. So those two I've been spending some time on. Like these are taking extra time. Like
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
normally, like for example, when I slot the guard, I would normally just like grind the edges, and this time I actually milled every one of this edges to get it perfectly 90.
Hmm.
Milled the slot, like everything, like trying to do super precise.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always appreciated those like master smith quality knives. Uh, uh, it's it's just a it's like looking at artwork, I think, that you could actually use. Um,
Yeah, that's the goal.
mhm.
My long-term goal is to get invited to the AKI. If I can, that's the long-term goal, but I'm way off of that.
If you keep making some of those gold Damascus knives, that might get you in there.
Yeah, I don't have another one of those in my future for a while.
Yeah.
But I also I started a new folder series. I don't know if you caught that, but last week I started the first episode of the compression lock folder. I
Okay.
talked about it in last week's episode. This is like, I don't know how much you know about folders, or if you're into folders at all. It's like a liner lock, but the lock releases on the spine instead of the belly of the knife.
Yep.
So I know Spyderco they were the
The
ones that invented.
paramilitary too. That was one of my favorite knives.
Exactly. So I have my silver tip model with the compression lock, which
Nice.
is amazing. I love it. Like, and it's a really really solid lock. Um, and watch the series, you'll see it. Have you ever done that? I don't know much if you've done folding knives before, or if you're
I
into them.
made I made a frame lock folder halfway. So before my boys were born, I worked with a knife maker, Matt Christensen, and he's on like near the Indiana border of Illinois. And I went down there 2 times and did some stuff with him, traded him a couple of cases of root beer and some money for some classes learning some of that stuff. And we got to like where I needed to cut the lock. And then my boys were born. And then it's been in my gun case ever since then. And that's been like 8.5 years ago. So
No
the
desire to get back to it.
well, there is, but the kitchen knives pay really well. The knife making tools pay really well. Um, I want to do some forging and stuff like that, but it's just hard to have enough time to do all the things that I want to do.
Oh, don't I know it?
And my ADHD, like always constantly trying to like stay on focus, stay on
Yeah.
target.
And that's true. Like, and I had talked about this um, when I started going full time. Like, similar to you, I've got the tooling side, I've got the classes, I've got knives, and you know, and then of course YouTube. And how do I split my time? Like, because effort equals revenue, right? Where do I put my time to make sure that you're paying the bills and all that stuff? You know, you have to live the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I tip my hat to like people that make good YouTube quality content like you guys do. Um, it's really hard. I made a couple of YouTube videos back in the day, and then I made like 4 or 5, and then that's when Dan and I started our Knife Perspective podcast. And I was like, I don't have to make the video line up with the audio, and I don't have to do like 100 different takes. I can just kind of like splice it together all from one. So once I started the podcast, I pretty much didn't do anything with my YouTube channel, and have since tried to like put some more content over there, especially with Instagram doing the non-recommended stuff to new followers. I was trying to do some more stuff with YouTube content, but it's all like doing the videos and stuff like that. I usually found it took like 2 or 3 hours for every like minute of video that I um, put on a YouTube video, because you gotta like set the camera up and shoot it, and
Yeah,
then the lighting you can't see, or you put the camera and then your elbow is like blocking everything that you can't see
yeah.
anything.
I'm
I
laughing
don't know.
because I've done every one of these things like
Yeah,
multiple times.
yeah, I'm sure, and it's just it's just hard, and then you get people that comment. They're like, so I spent a really long time explaining how I do the thorn pattern for my file work.
Hmm.
And I mistakenly didn't like do just like a 20-second final shot of the file work at the end of the video. And I've gotten so many people commenting on there, but like, thanks for the video. What a waste of my time to not see the final product. I'm like, go to my Instagram. There's like tons of pictures of my finished file work, like because like I can't, if I can't pull, or if I pull the video down, then I have to like upload a whole new one. And
Yeah, it's got to be a whole new video.
yeah, so
Yep.
uh
Yeah, there's many
like,
times when I'll post a video and go, oh crap, I meant to add that part. Or you get to editing and you realize there's a clip that you don't have, or you didn't press play on the camera, or there's all
or you
kinds of
can't
the
hear the
record. I
audio.
mean, the audio. I
Yeah.
forget that I had the lav mic plugged in, and it was I don't know, there's all kinds of dumb things. But I'll tell you, you do get better at after I think I have 500 YouTube videos. You do get better at it to know that, like now when I do it, I can take, you know, 30 seconds of grinding. And I know the angles to take it at,
Hmm.
so that I think you get better at it so that you can do less editing because you have less footage. Because
Hmm.
no, let's like, if I put more than 10 seconds of grinding in a video, I'm going to hear about it, or I'll see people fast forward through it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do like the 4-second shots of like the different angles of me grinding, and I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah. That's some of the stuff that I didn't know, um doing it. And then like I kind of like did the like put the camera and then pray that I got the right angle. And then the clips just were really long, and then you're cutting them down and
Yeah. Then you
searching
spend
through
more
all the
time
ones.
in the editing, and that's
Yeah.
painful. Yeah.
So eventually I hope to have some more stuff. I really want to do some videos on my smooth pass push stick,
Hmm.
and those SL stone holders for the reciprocating saw and stuff like that. Those are two videos I'm getting a lot of questions about recently. So need to do some more than Instagram videos, because the Instagram videos are good for like 48, 72 hours maybe, and then lots of people just don't
Yeah.
can't find them. So
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, Jerid used your push stick, the one with the bearing on it. I don't know the name
yeah,
of the
the smooth pass.
smooth pass. Thank you. That's pretty cool. I don't you really use push sticks that much, like once in a while, and I've never really dove into push sticks enough to say that, I usually always go back to the hands. I don't know why. It's like force
Yeah.
of habit, but
Well,
it's cool.
yeah, for you're using a lot thicker stock than I usually use for my kitchen knives. So the kitchen knives are hard, especially with the bigger blades, to like get um, enough force because they want to bend and flex on you.
Okay.
So having that push stick on a work rest, I'm able to move the bearing higher or lower to like move the grind up
Yep.
or down, similar to the Toman jig. I didn't when I was looking because I had the idea and I was looking for all the ball bearing stuff, and I really like his being able to put the extra pressure on there. But I also like the more flexibility having one that's kind of free floating. Although sometimes you do, if you're not careful, you slip off and then you hit the bearing against the grinding belt, and then you're trying to like grind out the little flat spot. And
Yeah. The one thing I don't I don't use push sticks to begin with, but
Mhm.
and I don't even use the push stick on the Tobin jig.
Okay,
But the one thing I don't like about that one is that it has two bearings.
okay,
And when I have used it, no matter where, no matter anything I've ground with it, one of the bearings is like, plus it's on an angle, so one bearing's never going to touch. And I'm doing blades with fullers, and those bearings never seem to land where I want them to.
okay.
And I know you can adjust them up and down, but I'm like, forget it. I'll just use my hand. But I love the jig. I just don't use the
Mhm.
push lever thing.
Yeah, it's definitely what you're comfortable using. I kind of got started with the push stick, doing some of the kitchen knives, and then um, one of the things that I'd always use G10 or Micarta, and then the abrasive would like get in on it, and you'd get scratching and stuff as
Mm,
you'd like pull it through. With the bearing, the grit and stuff doesn't stick in there, so you don't have very much of a mark on there at all as you're pushing, which is really nice.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good design.
Thank you.
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here, we have an announcement, but I wanted to have you on here mainly to talk about the Knife Makers Guild.
Okay.
Um, so tell me about the Knife Makers Guild, because I don't, I'm trying to remember if I joined. I think I got through the whole application once and I had a computer issue and I don't know that I ever got back to it. I understand the ABS. I'm obviously you've been in the ABS. I know all that. Tell me about the Knife Makers Guild. What is your status in the Knife Makers Guild? Tell me more about it. And for people, because I think a lot of our audience hears ABS all the time, and I don't know that they know that much about the Knife Makers Guild.
Yeah, so I'm actually part of two different knife makers guild, the national like knife makers guild, the bigger like organization, and then I'm also part of the Midwest knife makers guild that we can talk about some also. So then the national knife makers guild used to be one of the big ones, and I believe the ABS used to be part of that also. And then I think it kind of like split apart some. So the knife makers guild doesn't have any forging requirements. It's basically for the judging and stuff. It's all fit and finish, um, and we don't really have any requirements on what your knife has to look like or any design elements. But the Knife Makers Guild started way back in 1970. A.J. Russell was one of the first presidents. He was actually really instrumental in bringing a lot of all these knife makers together. Um, and then they kind of started some of the first knife show stuff. Um, and then collectors and everything were there also. In order to have a table at the show, I believe you had to be in the process of becoming in the Knife Makers Guild. Um, so those requirements have like changed over time. Currently, they have like um, the requirement of filling out the application, and then you have to show, I think it's 5 knives to 4 different voting members of the guild. We pretty much only have like kind of two main spots for knife makers. So we have like probationary and voting membership. So the uh, before you get in the guild, you take your application with your knives. You show voting members your knives. They determine if they feel like you're good enough to be in the guild. and then they sign on your application, which was pretty cool. I had um, 4 knife makers that I really respect. This guy that's kind of a big deal, Bill Rupel, signed mine. Luke
Okay.
Swenson is another folding knife maker that signed mine. A really good friend of mine, Dan Peters, and then Andy Roy of Fiddleback Forge. And so those guys thought my knives were good enough quality. Then you have to have 4 different knives that you try to make to the best of your ability, and you go in for probationary judging. And then they look at those 4 knives, give you any feedback and critique, and either give you the thumbs up or thumbs down. And then you become a probationary member, and then you have to make 4 additional knives to the best of your ability. And there used to be a at least 1 year requirement um, between those, but now it's they do the judging at Florida or in Atlanta and Texas. So those are the two locations and times they do judging for the guild. Um, Being in Atlanta, it was like a whole year back around before I showed my knives again for judging, and got my voting membership.
So is there any like you must be a probationary member for a certain amount of time, or is it just the next show?
The next show that they can inspect. So
Right. Okay.
if
So the next
you
Atlanta or Texas show.
yeah, so if you got yours in Texas, which is in like March, you could make 4 new knives and be ready for Atlanta in June. Um, Lots of times, some of the things, it kind of depends on where your quality and stuff is. There is a little bit of reciprocity that we do with the ABS. So if you're a master smith and you want to become a voting member, it's pretty much like thumbs up. Um, and then I'm not sure what they do with Journeyman Smith, but I think there was something that they were doing there. I'm not super familiar with that,
Got it.
but we don't have any like forging requirement. There's no the main things that you have to have for the Knife Makers Guild is they want you to grind the knife yourself, um, and there is like lots of people that do like full CNC things, but they want you to like be the person that programs it and runs the
Really,
machine.
you can do CNC knives in the Knife Makers Guild? Wow.
Yeah. And there are quite a few people that do CNC knives in the guild and do them really well. And it's been kind of weird. Um, Lots of people with CNC knives don't realize how much work goes into that also. Like there's a high cost of entry to do that. It's not like
Sure.
you just wave your fingers at the
Yeah.
screen and
Yeah.
out pops a knife.
Looking what Brian House went through when he bought the Haas, you know,
Mhm.
all the stuff that he went through, and he still is not producing knives out of that thing. I know
Yeah.
I've talked to him about all of the grief he had and the setup, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot. But yeah, there's you have to make the knife yourself. They want to or they would prefer to like to see you hand grind it, but it's not a 100% requirement. But you basically have to do a vast majority of the work yourself, and then in the application for your probationary, you write a short summary of how you produce a knife. So if you hand grind it, if you use a jig, if you they just want to know how you're doing all that to they just want to
sure.
make sure that you're doing all the work yourself.
So there's no like requirements like guards bolsters, like full tang,
Mm-mm.
hidden tang. Like you can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
they mainly go off of just fit and finish and making sure that your grind lines are clean and even and all of your stuff is nice and flat. There's not gaps and um, there's not. I don't want to say it's not as stringent, but it's a different kind of stringent than the ABS, where the ABS kind of has like some of their like signature um, things that they have for a lot of the judging knives. But yeah, there's guys that do daggers. There's guys that do kitchen. All of the knives I submitted were kitchen knives. Some of the guys all do slip joints. Some of the guys do. like buoys. It's like the gamut of different things. So, um,
Hmm.
yeah, I think a majority of the guys in the Knife Makers Guild do folding knives. There's a handful of us that do kitchen knives. Lots of guys that still do a lot of the hunting type knives and stuff. But the Knife Makers Guild was kind of traditionally kind of known for doing some of that like stock removal type knife making.
Nice. Well, that's a good opportunity to mention our first sponsor, Maritime Knife Supply, because Lawrence is. I've been talking to Lawrence back and forth, and he is about to release his folding knife section on Maritime.
Nice.
So, which is coincides well with the folder series, the new folder series that I'm doing. So, hopefully, he gets that up before my series is complete. I think he's very close. And if you're not into folding knives, Lawrence has got everything: steel, abrasives, tooling, anything you need for knife making. Lawrence has, or email him and he'll get it. So
Yeah.
go check out Maritime Knife Supply. Fast and easy shipping from Canada down to the US, or if you're in Canada, even better.
Yeah, I love his 936 belt, the Norton Norax. It's a structured ceramic abrasive, and it's one of the only high grit belts that I found that works really well for MagnaCut.
Hmm.
Being such a high wear resistant steel, those higher grit ceramic structured abrasives help a lot.
Um, Jerid gave me a few of those really high grit belts. I think they are Nortons. I haven't used them
Okay.
yet, but
The ceramic structured ones are kind of like a creamish color, and they're like little squares. They're not
oh
like
yeah, no, I
the
have those. Those are those. I didn't even know those are ceramic. Yeah, I use those for sharpening actually.
yeah, Norton has two different ones, one that's aluminum oxide and one that's ceramic. The 936 ones are the ceramic ones.
Okay.
So, yeah, good stuff there.
Yeah. So while we're on ads, I'll do one more. I am anxious now that I got my new anvil. I'm thinking I won't interrupt the triple T's, but I may do a build video just doing. I haven't done a video on just forging a knife, so I think I'm going to do just a forging video, and in that I'm going to be using for sure my two Basterds hammer. Um, which is my go-to hammer. I'll be using the new anvil, the new hammer. But if you need a hammer for your smithing, definitely go check out Two Basterds. Text the Smithy and Supplies. Go talk to Frank and Nita. They will definitely hook you up. My favorite is the straight peen, but they got straight peens, cross peens, diagonal peens, every peen that you need.
Yeah.
Kyle,
One
say
of
the
the one of the hammers that I saw that was neat that he had was he had like a straight peen and a cross peen on the same hammer, and then he had like both sides of diagonal peens. He's one of the only knife maker or hammer makers I've seen that's been doing that.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I've seen him make a few of those.
I've seen the diagonal ones, but yeah, the straight peen is my go-to. That's the with a round, I mean, a flat face on one side and the straight peen on the other.
Ain't it grand to have a fat peen in your hand?
That's right. So we talked about Knife Makers Guild. So tell me, how is the Midwest Knife Makers Guild is affiliated with the national one? How is that connected, or is it?
So I don't believe it is. It has its own president and board and stuff. Our president is Chad. Uh, man, I'm lost his last name. Um, sorry, Chad, I forgot your last name at the moment. But yeah, we have our own board of directors and stuff, and I'm one of the directors, and so is Bob Gore, um, who some of the listeners may know. But the Midwest Knife Makers Guild is more an education focused guild instead of kind of holding the National Guild kind of holds makers to a specific standard. The Midwest Knife Makers Guild has really worked on using our dues and fundraising and stuff to put on hammer-ins and guild meetings and stuff to bring in other expertise to help teach us about subjects that we're interested in and the guild membership has been interested in to try to help stimulate the educational value of that. We usually have 3 different guild meetings: a winter meeting, a spring meeting, and a fall meeting. And then we also have a hammer in, and now we have a knife show up in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities Knife Show.
And when's
And
that knife show?
it's in September. I forget the days
Okay.
off the top of my head. But there's somebody that's going to be pretty cool coming to the Hammer in August. Mr. Denis Tyrell is going to be our headliner, and he's going to be talking about some really cool stuff. I'm really excited to see you swing a hammer and do some of that stuff at the guild meeting. Tentatively, I'm planning on teaching some stuff about heat treating and quench plates and trying to use the carbide straightening hammer to help with some of that stuff. Wes Waremont is one of the other guys that I know of that's going to talk about some photography stuff. We're going to have a lot of really cool presenters there over the 2 days. And it's at the USA Knife Maker facility in Mankato, Minnesota. One of the things that I thought was really cool about Mankato that I didn't know until going up there, that's where Little Giant started, the power hammer
Oh,
company.
really? I didn't know
And
that.
they still have the building there, but it's not, they're not making any power hammers out of there. But it started in 1908 there in Mankato.
Yeah, I'm actually, well, first of all, I'm honored to be selected as the headliner. And I know you guys had Morocco last year, so you're kind of slumming it next year or
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah, we had Nick Rossi the year before that, Steve
Wow.
Schwartzer the year before that.
Okay,
So,
now you're making me nervous. I got to follow all these guys.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. I'm going to start with a discussion on Kumai. It's mostly going to be theory and setting up and how tos. Me pressing some Kumai in front of everybody is not going to be that interesting. So it's that talk is mostly going to be just a discussion. We'll talk about setup and do's and don'ts and all kinds of things about copper Damascus, and then and there's going to be a progression through all of my 3 talks. I'm going to hopefully finish the weekend with a finished Kumai Bowie knife, because the second talk is going to be all on guard fitting, how I fit guards. It's for no gaps, and like how do you set up the knife for a guard, all kinds of things like that. And then we're going to finish with handle fitting and handle sculpting for that pretty Coke bottle handle with the nice fine lines on it. So if all goes well, we'll have a nice finished Kumai Bowie knife at the end of the weekend.
Yeah, that'll be really cool to see. I'm really interested in, uh, yeah, I've watching Morocco talk about some of the Damascus stuff that was really cool. And just all the stuff. It's amazing how much stuff you learn being able to ask questions and spend some time with other makers, and even guys that aren't presenting, usually asking questions and stuff that you don't even think about. um, Always really good too.
For sure. In fact, I'm taking my own course from Morocco in March. So I'm doubling up Morocco and Dave Lish, since they're 30 minutes apart. I'll be spending a week with not each, but whatever, splitting a week up between those guys, and which was really cool. One of my fans or whatever, someone that obviously follows me, listens to the podcast, reached out and wanted me to teach a class while I was up there, because he also lives up there. So that's kind of cool that I can offset some of the cost of my
Yeah.
classes by teaching a class while I'm up there.
Hmm.
So that's
It's not
yeah,
cheap to travel anymore.
yeah, and taking classes from Dave and Morocco aren't cheap either, but well
Hmm.
worth the price. So I
Yeah.
am anxious to be up there and learn from those guys. But yeah, I got a bunch of classes coming up that I've got to teach. One is exactly what I'm doing at this hammer in, so um, I'll have taught that exact material twice before the hammer in. So hopefully I'll get it
Yeah.
right by then.
Yeah. The teaching thing is a lot very interesting. Um, you think you really know what you're doing, and then you teach a class on people that don't know what you're teaching about. And then, like, so I've taught a couple years at Blade University in Atlanta. Um, Early morning on Saturday, going to be doing it again for the file work, and I'm going to be talking about some handle shaping um, design stuff. Um, but so, like, the first time I thought I put together a super great presentation, I thought I like nailed it. And then I had like hours of reshooting pictures and different angles and all sorts of stuff to answer all the questions. Um, and then it's just progressively gotten a little bit better and better each year, where I added in doing some of the handle shape and stuff like that, some tips and tricks and pen placement and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely like I wouldn't say I have a background in teaching. I mean, I did a lot of presentations when I was in high tech. Uh, I am a certified scuba instructor, so there's a lot of training,
Mhm.
instruction you have to do in front of people to do that. And I like teaching, so that's kind of one of the things that's interesting to me. And I'm happy I'm teaching this course twice before the hammer in, so I'll get it all.
Yeah, I'm
And
excited to learn some stuff.
yeah, so maybe we'll get you making some kumai.
We'll see about it. I've got an Apollo forge and I've got a little like 80-pound anvil. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So you starting into the forging aspects of this?
like I said, I have my ADHD brain kind of goes all over the place. A couple years ago, Brent Baldman Knife and Tool, he mentioned I want to buy a Wicked Edge to for my knife sharpening. And I was like, I've got a Wicked Edge that I don't use. How about you just get that one for me? And he's like, how much do you want for it? I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, would you want an Apollo Forge kit? And I'm like, if you think that's a fair trade, he's like, I'm good with it. So I got the kit, bought the fire brick, put the whole thing together, did the initial firings that Brian recommends, and it's sat for like over a year now. So uh got excited about that, realized, hey, I can't spend any more time on this. I've got to get back to doing some of my other stuff. And um just so many things to do all at once.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to carve out some, call it education time. In
Yeah.
my the first episode we did at the beginning of the year, I talked about goals, and education for me was a big one that I wanted to spend a lot of effort on this year. And I
Mhm.
think it's important to carve out some, yeah, we all got to pay the bills, but you should
Yeah.
carve out a day a month or half a day a month and like work on some you projects, some
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just sometimes you're like working from home and stuff now. It's just like I'm always doing something, and then you're like, oh, it's the end of the month already.
Yeah,
So,
I'm at that point. If the only way I know that it's a weekend is that my wife is home,
mhm.
because
Well,
I guess I'm technically, you could call it retired, but
yeah.
basically do knife making full time.
Well, retired just means tired all over again.
That's right, tired over and over and over, and
Yeah.
that's true.
Luckily, I have kids in third grade, so I am very well aware what day is what because we have all the things on the different days, and uh,
Oh, see, I don't
yeah,
have kids at home anymore, so just me and the
yeah,
wife.
yeah. My wife's a teacher also, so doubled up on teacher schedule stuff.
Ah, cool, cool. So why don't we go into Maker Spotlight? Who do you have this week? I'm going to start with yours.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to one of my good buddies. He's actually like 25 minutes away from me in Elmhurst, Illinois, in the western suburbs. Justin Lundquist. He's Justin Lundquist on Instagram. He's got a pretty good following of people. I actually thought he lived in Florida because him and Evan Nicolaitis, he's Esnix knives. He makes like some amazing over the top traditional folder stuff. Um, a guy in Florida that beats some of the Texas guys in slip joints. They did a couple collaboration knives and stuff and always had a booth together. So I thought Justin lived in Florida. And then One of the times or last year was up at the Badger Show in Janesville, Wisconsin. I was like, "What are you doing up here?" It's like, "What do you mean? What am I doing up here? I live up here." And it was like, "You're kidding me." He's like, "You sent me a carbide hammer." I'm like, totally didn't pay attention, didn't connect the names. So, but Justin's a great guy. He makes some really cool fixed blades and has designed a ton of folding knives with a bunch of different production companies over the years. Makes some really cool like knucks and worry stones and stuff like that. This like Memento Mori little worry stone is one that I fidget with on my table while I'm podcasting because it's nice and quiet. But he does lots of really cool stuff. Definitely check him out. He's really getting into hormones and doing stuff like that. So definitely check him out.
Yeah, I was not following Justin. He was not on my radar, but I am now. Yeah, Justin's got just over 21,000 followers. So he's got some beautiful stuff. And
Yeah.
now that I'm kind of into folders, those are the ones that I'm especially noticing more than others. But
Yeah. He's
yeah,
got a nice little shop. He's graciously allowed me to use his laser. So I've been able to laser mark a bunch of my knife making tools and stuff like that. Hopefully one day I don't have to bother him so much with using his laser and I can just go over and bother him, help him out or whatever.
nice.
Who do you have
So
for a maker spotlight?
So this week I selected Mr. Bob Gore from Metal Storm Forge. Bob also was one of the guys that suggested me as a headliner for the Midwest Knife Makers Guild Hammer In, so I appreciate that. I've been talking with Bob a couple of years now, actually. Even before he was making his first knife, we were chatting on the phone. Yeah, we've just been, kind of friends for a while, and it's great to see him progress so fast in knife making. So if you're not following Bob, definitely go take a look at metalstorm_forge. As of right now, he has 1,001 followers. So he just capped over that 1K mark.
Woo.
So yeah, go give him a follow. Amazing work. And Bob's like his first knife was what, a year ago or something like that.
Yeah.
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 So crazy.
Yeah, he makes some really cool stuff. A lot of people can't believe that some of his first knives. I had a similar thing with some of the people with my first knife. They didn't believe that it was one of my first ones. It didn't look nearly as good as Bob's though. But Bob's been working in metalworking like his entire life.
Yeah.
So he wasn't coming in at like zero where a lot of knife makers come in. Bob's had a lot of fabrication. I believe he made a lot of like cars and stuff. Did a lot of modification on cars and
He
stuff.
did. He did. He was even on a TV show for cars.
Yeah.
But yeah, go give Bob a follow at Metal Storm Forge and check out what he's doing. All right. I want to mention another one of our sponsors. If you're not into making your own Damascus, these are the guys you want to go talk to. Baker Forge and Tool makes some of the most amazing Damascus around. They have a drop every week. Sorry, guys, I didn't check what the drop was. Unfortunately, their drops are so good, they usually sell out quickly anyway. But what you want to do is get the mobile app. That'll get you in a day early so you can find out about those drops. They're known for the copper my, but they've got a whole ton of different Damascus, and now are introducing and they're starting to play around with stainless Damascus. So you definitely want to keep your eye on Baker Forge and Tool. So use the app. They also have Gator Piss, which is a premier etchant for your Damascus. And I think they're going to come out with one. I don't know what they're going to call it, Gator Piss XL or whatever for stainless.
Okay.
I don't think they were asking about a name for it. I don't know if they came up with one.
Okay. Yeah,
But
that was one of the things I was gonna, why I was wondering about with the stainless Damascus if the Gator Piss was gonna work well for that also.
no, they definitely need a new etchant. You can't. Ferric doesn't really touch, or if ferric, there's some. I know Gator Piss isn't exactly ferric, but it's ferric based, and that's not going to touch stainless. You need really a lot more muriatic kind of acid. hydrochloric kind of acid to really mark it. But yeah, go get yourself some Baker Forge and Tool products. Use the discount code Triple T10. So go get some.
That's TTT10.
Yeah, for those that don't want to spell it out, it's TTT10. Yeah, Noah, I'm talking to you. Oh, so
One of the other sponsors that you have that I use a lot is Pelican Paste. I
love that stuff.
love that guy. Travis makes some great stuff. I've been a big fan of his Pelican oil. That works really well with my hammer handles and stuff like that I use it on. Really fast, able to put it on, let it soak in. I really like it for that. And I've been using his hand soap quite a bit lately. Have it right next to the kitchen sink, so not using the bathroom sink and getting that one all grody. And it really helps to cut through some of the grease and oils and stuff that we get on our hands while we're knife making.
Yeah, I love the Pelican Paste. The one I use the most is the hard wax, just because I do that on all my knife handles, and all the Damascus I finish with the hard wax. But one of my pet peeves here, I got to get this out if my wife's listening. So in our kitchen, my wife insists on having white tea, like the tea towels, whatever you call them, on the dishwasher on the thing, but they're all white.
Okay.
Can't wipe my hands on anything in the kitchen. I have to use paper towel, or she's going to yell at me because there's going to be gray streaks down the towels.
Yep.
Did your wife do that?
We have decorative towels and then some towels that are actually used for wipe or drying or using in the kitchen. So, yeah, I feel your pain. Some of those decorative towels, like why have it there if you can't use
We
it?
used to actually have a black dish towel, which I thought was the best. Black dish, what a great invention for a knife making spouse. But
I don't mind being white and having it get stains and stuff on it because you can actually see when you need to get it used. But I'm much more of a form over function guy sometimes. I do like stuff to look good, don't get me wrong. But I don't like having just decorative stuff around sometimes, but
yeah, well,
gotta
you,
gotta
you,
blend those two halves.
you got to let the girls have what they need,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
my wife loves to cook a lot, so the kitchen
oh,
is her
good.
domain.
Okay, I
Uh,
got a quiz question for you then. How many of your own knives do you have in the kitchen?
um, Probably about 8 or 9.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really good.
So starting out, I have a bunch of my early ones that were ones that I was testing out, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and then before I went full time, I was trying to have like every 100 knives. I was trying to save that one. Um,
Okay.
and then it sort of became ended up going to somebody that I knew wouldn't ever get rid of it. So like number 200 went to my sister-in-law for it was a carving knife that they used to cut the cake at their wedding and stuff like that. So I have a fair number of my own kitchen knives in there that I love using. Um, the one of them that's in there that I was using was the first one that ever got into a publication. So my number 300 was a S Ground Magna Cut chef knife. Was in the Knives Annual 2023
Okay.
or 2024. 2024, I believe. And then I have a couple of my knives that were in the article that was that Clay wrote about me in Knife Magazine this past October, which was a really great article talking about some of my backstory and how I got into knives. And there's even a picture of my boys holding a couple of knives we made with them after Blade Show.
Nice. That reminds me, I have another topic that I did not put into the notes
Hmm.
that I need to talk about, which is you mentioned article. So in this month, I guess it's the February issue of Blade Magazine, they did um, an article on Mystique of the East, and it's all on like kind of Japanese Eastern kind of blades. Um, and they used the picture of my silver katana as the
the main
article.
article
Yeah. I was
picture.
very happy with it. The only thing that I was not happy about is if you read the article, it says that the because I sent the blade guy, who I forget his name. Sorry, I'm sure he's not listening, but I sent him a bunch of notes, just discussing the blade. And I said in my notes that I chose not to do a differential heat treat on the blade because I didn't want a hamon to mess up the Damascus. Makes perfect sense, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the Damascus on the top and the bottom, it would look goofy. Um, but what made it to the article was he chose not to heat treat the blade in order not to mess up the Damascus. And I'm like, wait a second. So I've already reached out to Blade, and hopefully they're going to print a correction. Because who makes a katana and doesn't heat treat it?
Yeah.
One word,
Some gas station katanas are probably
right?
not heat treated.
Exactly.
But
Half the people that are reading that article think I'm a hack now.
yeah.
But anyway, I was thrilled to have it in the magazine. Hopefully they print a correction and say, yes,
Yeah.
indeed, it was heat treated.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody spends that much
That's
on a
always a
katana.
little disheartening when they don't get some of those things right, but it's hard to get all those things correct, but you kind of wish they would have gotten that one right.
Yeah. If they would have just put the word differentially in it, he chose not to differentially heat treat it, then it would have made sense.
Yep.
But
Yep.
whatever,
Yep.
it is what it is. But
Yeah.
hopefully people understand that, that's not the issue anyway. I was happy that it was in the magazine and they talked about it and put my headshot in there. That was great.
Yeah, that was awesome. I opened it up. Admittedly, I didn't have time to read. I always try to like thumb through and see if I see anybody that I follow. So it was nice to see somebody that I knew in there.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I flip through really fast to look at all the pictures, and then I go back and I read the articles.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I haven't even got mine yet. I'm still waiting. I actually bought it digitally online just so I could read the article.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully they got just the digital one messed up and the print one was.
no, because other people have said, yeah, I was wondering about that too. But
Oh, bummer.
Yeah,
No dice there.
yeah.
Yeah. But one of the things you had mentioned earlier, you were talking about some collaborations. I wanted to mention the collaboration you forgot that you
I
did
know.
on the podcast the other
Yeah,
couple weeks
that's
ago.
right. We did a collaboration
Yeah.
between the on the Sand Shark,
Mm-hmm.
on the what do we
For
call
the
it? The Sand
sanding
Shark
buddy.
Buddy, the holders for
Mm-hmm.
the sticks.
Yeah, Dennis came to me and he said, "I'd love to try to integrate the sanding buddy for or doing fullers, S grinds, and stuff." And with that, I also had a bunch of people reach out to me for the flat uh, inserts. I had always kind of steered people to my G10 and Micarta sticks that are flat for doing the flat ones, but for the Sandshark Buddy, it really made sense to have the inserts there for the flats. And looks really nice. I laughed so hard when you were like doing all the little videos and you were drinking coffee with your elbow on the sanding buddy, just applying the downward pressure. So
Yeah,
turned
that
out
was
really good. I was really happy with how that all came together and like all the little hidden nuts and screws and how that all um, yeah we were looking for wing nuts and stuff that would work, and I ended up just 3D printing my own knob and making my own little
which
uh,
worked way better. They're much
yeah
easier. Like, we're knife makers. We don't want to fiddle with tiny little parts. We need like big knobs and stuff. But
yep
yeah, and for everyone, sand sharks are back in stock, so you can get a sand shark, and then go on over to Kyle's site, go get the sanding buddy, um, the sand shark buddy. I always get the name of the sand the holders for the sanding buddy sticks. It does make it a lot easier. It takes all that back and forth stress off of your arms, because the table's moving. you can drop the sanding buddy into the holders, and it just does all the work for you. You need a little bit of downward pressure, and yeah, Bob's your
Yep.
uncle, as we like to say.
Yeah. Just keep move it around a little bit, working through all the grits.
Yep. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
to ship 3 sand sharks today, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
So yeah,
I'm glad those are selling well. I had made my own version of that and had thought about trying to do something, and uh, you had a much better idea for how to manufacture some of that stuff, because I don't have a mill or stuff like that, and was kind of struggling to come up with a way to make that cost effective to ship out and make those. So I'm glad you helped the knife community in that way, and I've
yeah.
definitely seen a lot of people make different things like that, and you came up with a pretty elegant solution to fix that problem.
There's definitely a lot of learning involved.
Hmm.
uh, had to basically learn Fusion 360 and do all the parts, and actually Jeff, my machinist, who helped a lot on, hey, let's do it, because, and I'm sure you know some of this, but you when you work with someone who knows, like, who machines parts for a living, and because I'll give you one example. There's like one of the little holders. Okay, it's got 2 holes on one plane and another hole on another plane, so it screws down, and then there's another bolt that screws horizontally through it. And I was making a left and a right, and Jeff said, just to make it easier, I know it's more holes, but why don't you just put all of the holes on one of them, and then you don't need a left and a right, and he can just machine them faster because there isn't a left and a right. He doesn't have to keep track. And I'm like, yeah, well, God, sorry, I keep hitting my mic. And I'm like, yeah,
Amateur hour over here.
I know, right? Um, and I'm like, that's the kind of thing I wouldn't think about, because I'm thinking fewer holes equals better, but not having to set up the machine and put more, like, differently and run different programs, it's actually easier. So
Yeah, yeah, that was one of the things that um, I really tried to always do a lot with when I worked at the machine shop. The machinists that I worked with, there were like 3 other guys that worked there pretty much full time. Um, it was amazing just learning a whole bunch of that stuff, different ways to set up parts to make uh, fabrication and stuff easier. And then when I was designing test fixtures and stuff at Navistar, I would go down and talk to the main boss guy of the machine shop. It was like, so Bill, this is what I'm working on. You got any ideas? He's like, no, you're on the right track. Or, hey, have you seen this over here? Like, this is already something we can just buy, and then we can just put some more holes in it. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, that's a lot easier. All right, what, or go get a requisition. So
yeah. And
there was a lot.
that's one of the things I def for the sand truck. I wanted to buy as many parts as I could that were done, because machining parts is not cheap.
Hmm.
People think, oh yeah, you just make this little part with 4 holes in it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not cheap to
it's
get things custom machined.
yeah, one of the things that I sell, Richard Beck machines them for me, but is my water cooled quench plates. They're 4 inches by 18 inches, or size for kitchen knives or any bigger knives. It works for smaller knives too, but yeah, he machines those in his CNC out of aluminum, and it's worked really great for holding the blade straight and keeping them cool, doing bigger batches.
Yeah, I have like a DIY water cooled quench plates with just the plates you buy off Amazon, but
Mhm.
I'm sure yours is a bit more. Is it, are they machined in halves and then they're bolted together? Is that what they're?
So it's like a 3/4 inch piece and then a 1/4 inch piece, and it has a O-ring seal on the outside and then one on the inside
I
too.
see.
So you can drill whatever hole spacing, and we have some nice lines in the middle there that's centered, so you can line them up to mount them in a vise. Anything that has it's a little over 6 inches spacing, and you can drill right through them, and they're all sealed and really
Cool.
nice.
Have you ever done a video or anything about, like the temperature that those things stay at if you're running water through them, like stats or anything like that? I know I've done my own on
I
mine,
haven't
but I'm
done a I haven't really done a video, but I used to put ice in with the bucket. I've determined that I don't need to do that, and it also helps the plates not to sweat with getting water on them. Kind of if you forget to turn the pump off from cycling or whatever. But I've done like 15 Magna Cut knives at 2150, and it's raised the 5 gallon bucket of water up like 10 degrees, and the plates have stayed the same temperature as the water the whole time. So I usually start with something like right out of the hose, somewhere around 60 degrees. And then, yeah, it'll heat up to like 70 or 75.
Oh, that's good.
Um,
So,
yeah.
maybe a 20-degree swing. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do use the ice water in mine, but I'm maybe doing 6 blades. I don't usually do big batches, but
Yeah. It was like a bigger thing in between the batches, where it would start to like sweat like your
yeah,
cup.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
And yeah, it was like, it's not not really doing that much for me, and I didn't have to like rob all the ice out of the ice maker and
I
stuff
know
like that.
exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm looking through my notes. Is one of the so I don't know if you obviously don't have this problem up where you live. Maybe you do. I had the biggest black widow spider under my workbench
Mm,
this week that I've ever seen,
okay.
end to end. Like, we get black widows here. Like, this
Okay.
is California, right? I took a picture. I should put. I haven't posted on Instagram. I swear this thing end to end on its legs was almost 2 inches long.
Wow.
The body on this thing was probably a half an inch. It was massive, and it's like especially when I'm sanding, when I'm at my sanding machine at the Sand Shark, I'm usually have my feet on the bench, like the lower shelf, which
Ooh.
is exactly where this spider was. And
Wow.
it's not that I love spiders, but man, scary
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I think the black widow and the brown recluse are like the two most poisonous ones, right?
No, the brown recluse is by far worse, but
Okay.
they almost never bite people because they're it's very uncommon. Black widows, on the other hand, are
More common.
a little more
Or
common because they like low concrete areas. Like, the corner of my shop is dark concrete.
okay.
That's where they live. So,
Yeah, but you missed a perfect opportunity to become Spider-Man.
right. Yeah, but knowing my luck, it wouldn't be a radioactive spider. It's probably choked on grinding dust or something.
Yeah, I think some of the brown recluse, if I remember correctly, live in some of like firewood piles or
Yeah,
like to live in. So I think we have some more of those around where I'm at. Um, but the cold weather helps keep some of that stuff at bay a little bit.
yeah. So, all these questions, because I've never had a shop. I'm from Toronto, so I know about cold weather, but these things that I never faced because I was never a knife maker in Canada. Um, do you have issues with, like, your quench bucket freezing? Like,
Uh,
is your shop heated?
yeah, my shop is heated.
Okay.
So I have like 180,000 BTU natural gas
Okay.
Mr. Heater thing that I got plumbed in. And I've got a Nest thermostat in it, goes up and down. And the night cools down, or it's set at like 50 degrees. And then at about 5 o'clock or something, it starts heating up to like 62 or 65 or something like that.
Okay.
Um, for when I go out there after the boys are at school.
So, is it attached to your house, or is it like a fully separate shop?
It's detached.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 3-car garage that I've kind of use a little over half, depending on how you measure things. We still park my wife's car in there during the winter, but during the summer she usually has that spot filled with her gardening stuff and wheelbarrows, and the boys have their bikes and all sorts of stuff. So
So you're
uh,
like 15 by 20. Like, how big's your shop? About that?
it's a 3-car garage, so
Mine's a 2 car. It's 20 by 20. So that's what I'm using for a reference here.
it's probably I think it's like 25 by 35.
Okay,
But I kind of like have like an L shape,
I see.
where I've got a bunch of storage racks and then my table saw and grinders and stuff along the one side. So I've got a one car garage door and then a 2-car garage door, and the 1-car garage door is pretty much completely covered with knife making stuff,
Right. Okay.
which it's nice to be able to open that up from time to time and use the leaf blower and get out any of the extra. I try to clean up and suck up as much as I can with the vacuum before I blow it out the door.
Yeah, I usually do that once a quarter, and I'm sure my neighbors hate it because all their cars are coated in crap. But
We're pretty lucky because where we found our house, we looked for quite a while. We've got a little over an acre, and there's a like 80-acre farm at the end of our driveway, and with a forest preserve, which is really uh, unique for this area. And yeah, don't really have to worry about being on top of each other and have a bigger yard and garden and stuff. We don't have like another house right next to us. If I blow the stuff out, it's mainly just worrying about my car.
oh no, I live in a subdivision. Like my neighbors are like 25 feet away from me, kind of thing, on
Yeah.
both sides. So there, yeah. The only tool that I don't have that I want is a power hammer, and that is not in my future at this location.
Yeah.
Someday.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine that's a very loud piece of equipment. And what a lot of people don't understand is like sound travels through the ground too. So, we did a lot of hydraulic shaker testing, and uh, we had to put the hydraulic shakers over ground because there was basement in a lot of our building, and they actually had to move one of the people that had like a storage facility area. They had to move it to another area of the basement because the shakers, all the sound going through the ground and through the wall of the basement, um, was just so loud that they moved those people to another area.
Yeah, I mean, I built a power hammer before I built the press, like a tire hammer,
Hmm.
and it would, and it was bolted to the foundation in the shop in the garage. It would vibrate the foundation of the entire house when that thing would, like, I had it for a week and I had to sell it because
Okay.
my wife would be upstairs at the opposite end of the house and the whole house is like boom, 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 boom. Like you could feel it through the walls. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
someday.
so are you thinking of like maybe going to one of those like rolling mills in addition to your press or something, since you
I
could have
have
a.
I already have a rolling mill.
Okay.
Yeah, great tool. But still doesn't do the power hammer, what a power hammer does. Just I would like a
Yeah,
power
the
hammer
versatility.
just to optimize Damascus, um, just to be able to do things faster. Because I am noticing that with the press, I'm doing more heats, it's more scale coming off. I'm losing more of a pattern sometimes due to scale that I wouldn't on a power hammer because what I would do in 4 or 5 heats with a press, I'm going to do in 1 heat with a power hammer.
Okay. And that's just because the power hammer is moving that material faster to like kind of heat it back up, or.
It's because it's only contacting the material for a millisecond when the
Okay.
hammer hits it. Plus, it's just a hammer hitting steel is going to, whatever, excite the atoms, heat it up,
Mhm.
as opposed to pressing on it slowly with metal dies. It just sucks the heat out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the big deal.
There's or one of the videos that I will always watch whenever it comes up on my feed is that guy that he starts his coal forge without a
Yeah.
lighter. He like hammers up some wood, and then he like hammers a piece of steel until it turns red hot and then sticks it into the paper.
Yep.
Uh, that just boggles my mind every time.
Yeah. And I don't, I've never tried it, but I've seen people do it. And I think you got to have the right size stock and you have to know what you're doing, obviously. But it's a pretty cool technique to be able to light a
Yeah.
fire like that.
Yeah. Definitely cool.
Yeah. I want to mention our last sponsor, Rock Solid Scales. They're the maker of Grip Tech which is this revolutionary rubber and resin composite material. Basically, it's like little rubber beads, and then they pour resin over it, gives you a really grippy um, uh, texture to hold on to. It's great for any kind of knives that are, especially kitchen knives, anything that could potentially be wet. You're on a boat, you want a fillet knife. This stuff is awesome. Definitely what it's targeted to. Hunting knives, skinning knives, any kind of game processing knife. That's where Grip Tech really shines. And it's really beautiful. And he's coming up with some really nice patterns, and it's easy to work with. You can sand it up to even 220 and then sandblast it, and you're ready to go.
Yeah, he uses a lot of ground up rubber. So those they're kind of like not uniform, which I think is really cool. And then Matt is doing a bunch of really cool stuff with pouring in some different molds and stuff like that. There's some really cool things that he's sent me behind the scenes, and I'm excited for him to do that. We have a little chat group that he sometimes says, "What do you guys think about this? Is there something you'd change or uh, different things?" So he gets a little bit of maker feedback.
Oh, that's
Really
good.
cool guy, really nice guy. Sells a ton of wood scales and stuff. Um, the scales that I put on my 8-inch chef knife that won best chef knife with our Knife Makers Guild in Atlanta, that was on the cover of Blade or Knife Magazine, was actually some Hawaiian koa that came from him.
Nice. Love
So
Koa.
yeah, beautiful stuff.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, that about wraps it up for me. You got anything else you want to talk about, Kyle?
Yeah, just like to um, let the listeners know, make sure you check me out for some of my knife making tools. The carbide straightening hammers was one of the things that I've really sold a lot of. And I think it's one of those beneficial things that everybody should have some kind of carbide hammer in their shop for straightening blades. If you haven't seen one work, I've got a really good YouTube video where I do the whole process without speeding it up. So I take a really bad warped knife and I straighten it in under 10 minutes. The whole video is under 10 minutes. There's about 5 or 6 minutes of hammering, lots of explanation of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So definitely check those out. The SL stone holders, the SL stands for suck less. One of one of my good friends, he um, uh, he had the sanding sticks and he wrote a little jingle. It was helping your hand sanding suck less. So the stone holders, I gave him a little nod. That's Sean Mullenbelt, 51 Bravo. If you guys haven't followed him, give him a follow. But it's a stone holder, hints knives and parable knives, or parable crafts, or is he still using Manny? Is he still using parable knives on Instagram?
Well, I don't know.
Manny Gutierrez. But they like cobbled together some stuff to get it to use with a reciprocating saw, and I really liked that idea. And I didn't want to cut the guard off of the front of the smaller hacksaw that they had done to get those parts to fit. So I ended up designing up a thing with some plates that I get cut from Cut Send, and some parts that I 3D or use my 3D printer to make to hold stones. I really like the Mold Maker Plus stones from Geiswein. They're a silicon carbide, so it really works well on MagnaCut and all sorts of other steels, and it helps to get those grind lines off the grinder off really quickly and build that base, so you aren't having to use the sand shark or your elbow grease as much to get a lot of those out. You still take some finesse with being able to move it around and stuff. But make sure you check those out. And then the smooth pass sticks, we talked about those a little bit with the ball bearing at the front. That has helped out a lot of people. The sand shark buddies and the sanding buddies always work well together. And then I have what's called a sanding buddy micro. So that's for some of the slip joint guys, some of the smaller folder guys. They had messaged me and said, I love your sanding buddy, but the 1 inch width takes up pretty much the entire knife. Can I get something that's like a half an inch? So I made some smaller ones there, and yeah, tons of different things, epoxy bottle holders, all sorts of little gadgets and organizing gizmos that has helped my knife making career out a ton. So wanted to let you guys know that. And then
It,
I've got a patch of, or sorry, do you have something else?
no, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your
I've
thought.
got a batch of pocket bushcrafters that's going to be going to Knife Center soon. And then some more of my kitchen knife inventory that's going to be going to Northside Cutlery. So hopefully you'll see those soon also.
Cool. You know what I use my carbide hammer for? Well, I won't say the most, but now that I'm doing folders, I find myself screwing up the lock bar once in a while, and I use that to lengthen the lock bar
Okay.
on the titanium liners, because then I don't have to take a punch, and
Mm-hmm.
so just whacking it, you know, 5 or 10 times with a carbide hammer on either side lengthens that lock bar enough that if you make a little oops grinding the lock face on your blade, the carbide hammers are perfect for that.
Nice.
I even turned my master smith Mike Vagnino onto it, and I sent him a carbide hammer for that very purpose. So
Very cool. Yeah, they're surprise or they're not overly hard to make, but you got to know what you're doing to, like, if you use a hammer that you already make sure you soften it back to drill the thing. I like to braze the ball in. Lots of guys like JB weld it. Um, yeah, lots of different ways to skin a cat, and feel like that's the one of the best ways to never have it worry about coming out.
yep. All right, it's been great having you on, Kyle. Where can people find you if they don't already know you?
Yeah, you can find me at cagedailyKnives.com, and I'm Cage Daily Knives on all of the social media. Most active on Instagram, and uh, yeah, have stuff on Facebook and TikTok, although I'm not extremely active on TikTok, but
Well,
also
nobody in the
have,
US is right now. Don't worry about it.
they turned it all back on.
Oh, did they? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
not a TikTok guy, so
Yeah, it all got turned back on yesterday, and I think or President Trump was signing a 90-day extension thing. So yeah, it's all back on. Not all the people weren't having to scream their heads off, but
no.
yeah, pretty much Cage Daily Knives anywhere that you can find me. Also, you can keep in touch with the podcast that I'm a part of at knifeperspective.com, and we're on everywhere that you can find podcasts. Also, we usually do Dan Eastland and me. He's Dogwood Custom Knives on Instagram. Mentioned him. He was one of the guys that took me to the my first knife shop. But we usually interview different guests. We're going to be having a show with Spence from Even Heat.
Oh,
That's going to
cool.
be coming out soon. We've got 108 episodes, or well, that'll be episode 108. So lots of listening if you are searching for more knife maker content.
Great. Very cool. And we will see you at Blade Show in June.
Yep, I'll be at table 3 double B again, and I will be teaching my filework class again, and I believe that's still going to be Saturday morning at, I think it's 8:30.
Nice. It's a rough time slot, but
Yeah, it's a little bit of a rough time slot, but it's nice to be able to not be away from the table all that
yeah,
much, and still have quite a few people be able to get the things that they need to get to.
yeah. Well, you get the serious people because they're the ones that got up early for the presentation.
Yeah, I know Ryan from the Hustle and Grind. He missed the missed the class 1 year. I usually always have one or two people that come up to my table after and say, "I totally slept through it. I'm so sorry." I had one guy buy uh, the class the next year. He goes, "Man, I really wish I would have taken this last year because it would have helped me a whole bunch the year before." So
Honestly, I always have high aspirations of going to, I've never made it to a class at Blade Show because I'm just too busy talking to people or watching the table, even though it's Jerid and I. So it's like either of us could leave, but
yeah,
maybe this
yeah,
year.
it's hard to take the time to be away from your table. Lots of times I feel like that's, like you mentioned, the education. That's a really good place to get some of those people that already have expertise that they're wanting to share about. Yeah, I've that's helped me up my game a ton. It's always a lot cheaper to learn from other people's mistakes than it is to do your own. So
That is so true. So,
yeah.
all right. With that, we're going to end this 50th episode of Triple T for Knife Makers. Thanks again, Kyle, for joining me today. And we will be back with Jerid and I next week. No idea what we're going to talk about. I'm sure we're going to hear all about his vacation. All right.
Nice.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Can't. There it is.
And that's a wrap.